Today I want to talk to you about the skills you have to develop if you want to let go of negative emotions, or if you want this to become easier. It happens many times that we say, well, just let it go, it's not that important, don't worry about this so much, don't give it so much attention. But sometimes we're really emotional and it's not so easy to do that. And so the first thing we have to do is we have to stop identifying with the story. Identifying with the story is that we actually believe everything we think about the event in question. Let's say you're angry at your neighbor for being really loud and not very considerate. Then there's this whole story in your thoughts about how this person is behaving, what this means, that they're not respecting you, what kind of person this is, why they're behaving like that. Whatever it is that your mind focuses on to explain the situation, and the focus is on the explanation of why and how this is like that. So the first step is we have to stop identifying with the story. That means we have to consider that this story may not be true, or it may not be the whole picture, or in any case, it's not the important aspect of what is happening. So it's really about taking a deep breath and not engaging with these thoughts, just stopping to think about it, talk about it, explain it, because just repeating it is not gonna make you feel better, and it's not gonna help you let go or change the situation with your neighbor. The second step and the second skill is the ability to step out of this situation. And we do this by directing our awareness to the body. And how do we do this? Just by looking at how we feel right now. What is going on in our body when we think of the neighbor, when we think of the noise that they're making? How does our body react? And if we direct our attention to that right away, we don't have time or energy to focus on the story. So these two skills are complementary. The third skill is very related. It has to do with being able to feel your body, because for many people, feeling our body is not a priority. We think that our thinking is much more likely to help us change a situation or understand what's going on or to get a different result. But really our body is the center of our intuition, and it has its own intelligence. So let's say you think of the neighbor and you focus on your body and you just notice what's going on in your body. And you observe the way you can breathe, or you notice if you have any sensations of warmth or tingling or like a lump somewhere. And these physical sensations, we have to learn to perceive them, because we have to even start thinking that they're important and that we want to perceive them. We perceive so many stimuli all the time, and we only are aware of just a very small percentage of this. And so it's about bringing the physical sensations into our awareness and being aware of our body. The fourth skill, or fourth part of these skills, is to be able to notice emotions in their physical focus. When we feel anger, we get a specific reaction in our body. And it means that the physical sensations that we allow ourselves to observe, they go together and correspond to a certain emotion. And frequently we're not very aware of the emotions that we feel. So let's say we're really angry at a neighbor, and that's the most evident emotion. But as we learn to notice our physical symptoms and to relate them to emotional states, maybe we notice that there's an energy or an emotion of guilt and blame and a sense of having to be better, not being good enough, and that the real point where we engage with this neighbor isn't really the anger, that the anger is maybe there to send off or to protect us from a different emotion that feels much worse or more negative, which might be guilt or blame or rejection or not being good enough. Maybe we feel disrespected by this neighbor because he behaves that way. And that's obviously our story, but it's also our emotions and our physical reactions. So as we observe our physical symptoms and the way our body is doing, we learn to recognize emotions in their physical form, and our body helps us to see what the emotion is that's actually going on, and they can be several. And that brings me to the fifth skill, which has to do with recognizing the context rather than the content. And this concept kind of integrates all the previous skills. The idea is that whatever's happening, what somebody's saying, the actions that occur are the content. And this content happens within the context of a certain emotionality. And because everything is energy, the emotions aren't separate. It means that if you are blaming your neighbor and you're really angry at them, this emotion gets to them, and maybe your anger or your blame is even only a reaction to your neighbor's energy. Because both of these reactions occur in the same context, which would be an energy field and information field. And if we recognize the context, then we can start transforming it. And our emotions are a big clue to recognizing the context. Also, certain actions have different meaning in a different context. So maybe you are really angry and the anger isn't something that the neighbor shares, or you blame the neighbor, but it's really because you have a tendency to feel not good enough and feel that other people aren't good enough. Maybe this is your issue that's going on, and your neighbor just gives you a perfect situation where you can experience this. And maybe if you talk to the neighbor and you mention it, you find out that the neighbor didn't have any disrespect in mind, that they really weren't aware that you could hear their music, for example. So you don't know if the intention of the neighbor is what you interpret it to be. And when we're very emotional in a negative way, we think that the intention of the other person was and is negative. But as we are aware of the context, we can also sort out what's mine, what's theirs, what is shared. How can I improve my own side? How can I let go of my own emotions in order to feel better and more positive? And as you recognize the context, you can recognize your own belief patterns or things that repeat within you, and take responsibility for them. And it's as simple as just saying, okay, I take responsibility of my blame and my guilt and my feeling rejected, and feeling and sensing it in the body. This act of taking responsibility, saying, okay, this is my emotion and nobody can give me that emotion if I don't agree with this, if I don't let it be triggered. It's in my power to change something about this. The second you take responsibility, the energy rises and the negative emotions start to transform. So here's a few thoughts about this process of dealing with negative emotions. I hope it's inspiring to you. I would love to know what you think about it, and how you experience this, and what benefits you notice and what's difficult. Please comment or in the comments below or on my Facebook page. And of course, if you like this video, you can like, share and subscribe also down below. Thank you very much for listening and giving me your time, and bye for now.